My name is Kai, and I want to share with you something that happened to me a few years ago. An experience that, to this day, still lingers in the back of my mind, like a shadow I can't quite shake. This event happened in the fall of 2021, when I was still currently working as a real estate agent in Hong Kong. I can remember, at the time, the air was starting to cool, and the days were shortening. The time of year where twilight seems to arrive just a little too early, and the city starts to feel just a little quieter, a little lonelier. Now, before I get into it, I just want to say that I'm not really a superstitious type. I've walked through hundreds or even thousands of apartment units, both lived in and completely abandoned. I've seen all sorts of things, met all kinds of people. Nothing has ever really fazed me, but this story, I still don't know what to make of it. I've told this story to friends and family members, hoping somebody could give me some kind of logical explanation. But every time I recall the events of that day, it just gets stranger. It all started with a favor. My aunt owned a unit in an older apartment building, not too far from my office. She had been renting it out to the same couple for over 20 years, a quiet pair who moved in when they were in their 40s and had stayed until now when they were retiring. They were finally packing up and moving abroad, heading off to Canada to be closer to family. My aunt asked if I could help her get the place rented again. The unit was, well, aged. It wasn't in bad shape, but you could feel the years in it. The kind of apartment that still smells faintly like incense and old wood floors, where the paint had been redone a few times but never quite masked the decades of living that had happened inside. We figured a small renovation would really help make it more appealing to new tenants, especially younger couples or small families. Since my office was nearby, I would swing by every few days to check on the renovation progress. It became a bit of a routine. I would just go up to the unit, snap a few photos, update my aunt, and then I would head back to the office. I must have been up there maybe about 20 times by now. Nothing ever felt strange. In fact, the place had this quiet calm to it, just normal. Until one afternoon, when I received a call. It was a weekday, midweek. I remember it well because I had been thinking how quickly it was getting dark these days. The sky had already started shifting to that burnt orange hue that only autumn skies have. I got the call from a man who seen the listing online. He was very polite, articulate. He wanted to see the apartment the same day, around 4 p.m. Totally standard stuff. We agreed to meet outside the building. When I arrived, he was already waiting for me, with a woman. I assumed that was his wife. They looked like middle-aged professionals. The man, he had on a crisp dress shirt and khaki pants. And the woman, she was dressed in a very polished, effortless way that suggested she might work in finance or law. I was actually right. Turns out, she worked at a bank down the block, and she wanted to squeeze in this apartment viewing during her lunch break before heading back to the office. Even though it was 4 p.m., I remember thinking, this is a really late lunch break. We headed up to the apartment together. The woman inspected the unit with care, every corner, every light fixture, every cabinet. She moved slowly and deliberately, asking very thoughtful questions. From a real estate agent's perspective, this was a dream. It usually meant serious interest. I stood by the entrance, letting them have their space to look around while I scrolled on my phone. At one point, the man came over and made some small talk. He told me that he and the woman were not a couple. She was actually his older sister, and she was actually looking for a place now because she was in the middle of a divorce. I kept it professional and I didn't pry. That kind of thing happens. We chatted a little longer, and after about 40 minutes, they said they were done viewing the apartment for now, and that they would discuss it with their family before deciding on a second visit. Seemed like a totally normal showing, nothing out of the ordinary. It was already getting dark by the time I got back to the office. It was about 6:30 p.m. The sky had dimmed, a deep navy, and the streets had thinned out. I was just about to head home, already imagining a hot shower and maybe some delivery for dinner. Just as I started backing my car out of the lot, my phone rang. It was the same man that I just showed the apartment to earlier. He said his sister wanted to see the apartment again, right away. This time, with her family. I blinked, confused. Wait, right now? I asked. It's already dark, wouldn't it be better to wait for daylight? But then he told me they were already standing outside the building, waiting for me. At this point, I was a little thrown off, I'll admit, but I didn't want to turn them down because business is business, right? They seemed so eager, so invested. Maybe they were ready to sign right away. I sighed. I turned the car around and drove back over. This time, when I arrived, the man and the woman were waiting for me with a third person, a little girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, wearing a school uniform from an all-girls elementary school nearby. She clung close to her mother's side. She looked shy, half hiding behind her mom. Right away, I noticed she kept mumbling something. I couldn't quite catch the words, but the tone was unmistakable. She sounded scared. I smiled and tried to lighten the mood a bit. Hey, Mumui, I said gently, using the Cantonese term for little sister. Don't be scared. We're just going to see a home. It might be your new home. She didn't respond. She just looked away, whispering again. In the elevator, she continued murmuring to her mother, something about being scared, repeating it under her breath. Her voice so soft, it was almost like she was talking to herself. Her mother and uncle didn't say anything at all, not a word. We entered the unit. The lights buzzed to life. I opened the windows for ventilation, gave them some space, and waited in the kitchen. The mother went straight to the balcony, as if she knew exactly where she wanted to go. The little girl, curiously, started running about the apartment, giggling now, completely transformed from the timid shadow she had been earlier. It felt odd. One moment, she's terrified, clinging to her mom, and the next, she's sprinting through the hallways like she lives there. Kids can be weird, I told myself. Maybe she just needed a few minutes to warm up. I stayed in the kitchen, giving them privacy, but after a while, curiosity got the better of me. I stepped out. What I saw was pretty weird. The woman picked her daughter up while on the balcony, but it was a very unnatural movement. She was holding her like an object, arms stiff, lifting her in a way that was eerily unnatural. And then slowly, almost robotically, she turned in place, pivoting to the right while still holding the girl out in front of her. It was as if she was scanning the horizon, but without a phone, no camera. Just that blank, sweeping motion, like taking a panoramic picture with nothing in her hands. The girl said something softly to her mother, then wiggled to get down. The moment her feet hit the floor, she bolted, ran full speed toward the front door to get out. Her mother chased after her. Then the man followed. I was left alone. No goodbyes, no words, just gone. I stood there trying to make sense of what had happened. I wasn't scared exactly, but my nerves were on edge. I gathered myself, closed the windows, turned off the lights, and locked up for the night. They were waiting for me at the elevator when I stepped out. No one looked at me. No one spoke. We rode the elevator down in complete silence. And then, from the corner of the elevator, the little girl whispered again, "I'm scared." This time I was starting to get a little bit angry about everything that took place throughout the night. And I asked her, What are you scared of? She turned to me slowly, covered her mouth with her tiny hand, and just giggled. I didn't know what was going on, but everything was starting to become a little bit creepy for me. By the time we got to the lobby, the man, he didn't give me any sort of explanation of what happened, and just said, "We'll be in touch," and rushed to leave. It was now 7 p.m. On my drive home, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The strange behavior, the silence, the laughing, the way the little girl was held. I couldn't shake it. I needed answers. So I decided to call the man while driving. Bluetooth, of course. No matter how many times I tried, the phone number wouldn't go through. It was so weird. I just talked to this man earlier on the same phone number. I figured he was trying to do some kind of tactic to get me to lower the price or something like that. I decided to go home and just sleep it off for the night and figure it out tomorrow. The next day, the man did not call me. I tried reaching out, but the same thing happened. It just kept saying the phone number was out of service. I did not know what was going on. I figured this man really did not want the apartment, and maybe he didn't want to tell me and let me down, but I just could not get a hold of him. After a few more days, I decided to tell my aunt what happened with this family. She stayed silent for a little bit, and then she told me a story that sent chills down my spine. A few years back, there was a tragedy in that very same building, just 2 floors above my aunt's unit. The layout was exactly the same. A woman, middle-aged, maybe in her 40s or 50s, had recently moved in with her young daughter. She was going through a divorce at the time. From what I heard, she was struggling, not just emotionally, but financially too. Depression had taken hold. She was doing her best to hold things together for her daughter, but it was clear things were unraveling. One evening, she picked her daughter up from school, and they went out to share a quiet dinner together. Just the 2 of them. Something simple. Maybe an attempt at normalcy, or a last effort to find a little peace. They returned home from dinner later that night. It was around 7 p.m. They just walked through the door, and the little girl was still in her school uniform. As they stepped into the apartment, the woman gently asked her daughter to go take a look at the balcony, that the view was especially pretty that night, all the city lights flickering from the surrounding buildings, and the slow stream of headlights moving below. A moment that should have been innocent, beautiful even. She picked her daughter up in her arms, held her close, and then, without warning, she threw the girl over the balcony. And moments later, she jumped herself. It was the woman's younger brother who had helped her move in. He had found the apartment for her. He had tried, truly tried, to be there for her during her darkest days. But the guilt of what happened, the weight of it all, it was too much for him to handle. 1 week later, he took his own life as well. It's a heartbreaking story, one I never heard of until after my strange encounter. I'm not sure why my aunt decided not to tell me this important story until now. When I finally heard this story, I was stunned, and then a thought hit me, one I still can't shake. The family that I showed the unit to that night, a woman going through a divorce, her young daughter in school uniform, the younger brother trying to help her through a difficult time. Was it all just a coincidence? Or was it something darker, still lingering in that building? Even now, I don't know what I experienced, but I know this. It didn't feel like a coincidence.